How's it going, everyone? I hope you're all having a great day playing your favorite games, because the situation I'm talking about as an artist actually has me really pissed off. So normally I don't talk about Bungie because besides Halo, they haven't really made any other games that I actually really care about. However, the situation and hot water that they've gotten themselves into kinda had me a little intrigued. So with their newest game coming out, Marathon, it came to light that the art assets that they have been using were stolen by someone that the artists were following on Twitter. I don't have the person's name on me right now. I don't have anything in front of me. This is an unscripted video, but apparently the artist that they stole from was somebody who didn't make a whole lot of money off of their art, and Bungie, this company that Sony bought for $3.6 billion, and pays them handsomely to make these creative games that people have never really seen before, with all these amazing stories and great gameplay. And these were the people who originally made Halo, couldn't even come up with their own original art for a game based off of a series that they made all the way back in the 90s. This is pretty sad, especially like nowadays with how AI is kind of taking over everything, especially in the art department. More and more artists are getting laid off as they're getting replaced with AI, and then here you have Bungie, who couldn't even contact the original artist and say, hey, we like your stuff, we'll pay you compensation to use it. Instead, nope, somebody just comes along, just says, hey, I like that, I'm gonna rip you off wholesale. It's not even really ripping off, it's just straight up stealing. And there's a lot of evidence pointing that they actually did steal all of this person's work. Well, not all the person's work, most of the person's work, and just applied it as textures to everything in the game. And the reason why I wanted to talk about it was because it actually reminded me of some hot water that Steel Wool got into around the time that Help Wanted 1 was released. So for those of you who don't know or may not have heard of it, this was talked about by people who talk about behind the scene things with Five Nights at Freddy's, and I'm very interested in the way games are developed and anything that goes on while games are developed or being promoted. So during Help Wanted's promotion and initial release, and leading up to the initial release, a lot of keen-eyed people noticed that the blurb where you see like all the characters kind of meshed together in like a sort of melting pot, at least a couple of them were fan-made model, and this was brought to Steel Wool's attention. Not only that, but in I believe the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 mini game, in the initial release of it, the night 2 or one of the night, the preview image for it used a fan-made model of Foxy or one of the other characters. I'll probably have the image up on screen if I can find it, and this led to Steel Wool getting into some trouble over plagiarism and stuff. But Steel Wool, unlike Bungie, has only done this once, and when it was brought to their attention, they actually had the decency to change the art in both the promotional material and in the game to replace the art that they plagiarized. And the funny thing about, plagiarizing someone's work in Five Nights at Freddy's is that there's a lot of fans out there that make fan works. They make fan-made assets, fan-made 3D models, and a lot of these fan works, when they're uploaded, the creators usually say, you can use my creation however you want for your own other fan works. But in these same descriptions, they usually say, as long as you credit me. And most of these are released for free. So what I believed happened in the Steel Wool incident is that, the people who were working on the game saw these fan-made assets, saw that the creator said you can use these in your works, and probably thought that, well, I can use them. I work for the brand. These were fan-made things for the brand. They're probably not gonna mind all that much if we use them in our actual games. But the community was like, no, that's not how it works. We love making stuff for your games. We like making fan-made stuff for your games. But if you're going to put it officially into the actual games, we want to be credited for our work. We want to know that our stuff was put in to your work. And we also, if it's possible, to have some compensation, which is fair, And Steel Wool also only did this once. I mean, it's not a good thing that, Steel Wool has this on their record at all. People to this day has never let them live it down, and their games have been looked at under a microscope ever since. Now, not just for the theories, but also for in case they steal any fan art or any fan-made 3D models and stuff. And so far, they've been good. Unlike Bungie, who in at least 3 other cases besides this one, if not more, have been plagiarizing other people's art and other people's work. And what pisses me off about this is that if this was any other smaller studio, smaller publisher, smaller developer, or a one-person team making their own games, and they were caught doing this, they would be just completely obliterated by negative press and people going after them, and have such a bad reputation that they would be basically blacklisted from the games industry, not allowed to set foot anywhere near that. Because let me ask you a question. Let's say Steel Wool had a track record of constantly stealing people's art in every single game. Help Wanted, Security Breach, Ruin, Help Wanted 2, the upcoming Secret of the Mimic game. People found evidence of them stealing their art, stealing other people's art. And Steel Wool made some half-assed apology on a separate Twitter account outside of the Five Nights at Freddy's Twitter account. So basically trying to hide it. And Scott Cawthon not only did nothing about it, but approved of Steel Wool doing this by allowing them to keep doing it. How many of you who are listening to this, who can purchase your own games, would keep supporting Five Nights at Freddy's? How many of you would keep supporting this franchise if it was found out that the whole entire, well, at least when Steel Wool took it over, did nothing but steal art assets from people? I imagine that this franchise would probably sink right away and everyone would be trying to bury it. But because, this community does not let stuff like that slide, and Steel Wool know this community does not let stuff like that slide, and because I would like to think the people at Steel Wool are decent people, and because there was a mix-up with them probably thinking that, hey, this fan-made stuff is made for the franchise we're working on anyway, so we're allowed to use it in our stuff, I can give them the benefit of the doubt that that mistake was made. Bungie has no excuse for what they have done. A lot of people are boycotting the upcoming game because of this, and they are saying that Bungie needs to be shut down, Sony needs to let them go, that the developer needs to be dispelled and stuff. And personally, I think they should face some sort of punishment for this. I don't know if all of Bungie should be just fired and eliminated from the games industry, but something needs to be done about it, because this is a repeat offense. This is something that has continued to happen and will most likely continue to happen if we let them keep getting away with this. Other content creators have talked about this, and I thought I would throw my hat in the ring talking about this because it needs to be addressed. Again, if it was found out that most Five Nights at Freddy's games used stolen assets from other people and stole ideas from other people, it's bad enough that, some of the games weren't that good, people didn't like Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator, except for the ending with Henry. FNAF World, upon initial release, wasn't all that well received, even though I liked the game. I thought it was kind of fun. There are still some people who don't like this game. A lot of people thought the game was so bad that Scott Cawthon had to take the game off Steam and re-release it for free. And of course, you know, the whole thing going on with Security Breach. Everyone who is a Five Nights at Freddy's fan knows how that turned out. They had to release free DLC. I personally believe Ruin was going to be a separate game, if not paid DLC, until the whole fiasco with Security Breach happened. And even Help Wanted 1 was a kind of botched launch. Thankfully, it was a good enough game that the botched state the game was released in didn't really matter, and it was still enough of a good game to carry it through, like all of the bugs and everything that was happening with Help Wanted when it was first released, and kind of cushioned the blow when it came to the whole plagiarized art assets and models that I talked about earlier. But if Five Nights at Freddy's was a franchise made off of mostly stolen art assets from other people, most content creators, including content creators I personally know, would jump ship. They would move on to other franchises that they love. I sure as hell wouldn't support Five Nights at Freddy's if it was known that the creators behind the franchise were a bunch of art thieves. And this is why I'm bringing up things with Bungie and their latest game coming out, which for some reason I can't think of their latest game. Just give me a second. I believe their recent game is Marathon, based on their 90s. Yeah, I'm looking up things online right now. It's like Marathon is the game with all the stolen art assets and everything. And I don't have much of a personal history with Bungie. All I know them as is the former Halo people who made the Halo games. And, you know, when Bungie was in control of Halo, the games were really good. I kind of stopped playing Halo around Halo 3. I only played Halo 3 when I went over to my friends' houses and they had Halo 3, and then we all played Halo 3 together. After Halo 3, I kind of stopped playing Halo. But a lot of people are now joking, well, what if Master Chief and Halo wasn't an original idea? What if that was stolen? And, you know, the artists that they stole everything for Master Chief and Halo just didn't speak up at the time, because there was no way to speak up at the time. And it would be kind of funny if that turned out to be the case. But this whole situation with Marathon and, you know, Bungie just stealing things, like I heard that even a story for a DLC, and I believe Destiny 2, if not Destiny, also got stolen. And I just find this completely repulsive. Artists already have a hard enough time with having their art stolen by AI, because for those of you who don't know how AI works, AI doesn't create anything. AI basically just traces from other people's work. They trace things, they layer things, they mush things together. That's why AI generated art looks kind of weird, and you can almost always tell when something is AI generated, even if it's like an AI generated like cartoon or anime picture. The art is kind of weird looking because AI is taking a bunch of images that they already have, tracing over them and mushing them together, like trying to take puzzle pieces that don't fit and smash them together with a hammer. And, you know, a lot of companies are like, well, we think AI can make things better than actual artists who know what they're doing, and we'll take this weird looking art and stuff and replace the human element with these AI generated images and stuff and AI generated videos. Coca-Cola had a company use their AI software to make AI generated commercial for them, and a lot of people were pissed over that. But there are people saying, you know, at least Bungie could have used AI for their art assets. People wouldn't have been pleased with them using AI, but at least it would have been a tiny bit better than stealing somebody else's work, because this is why I don't have any of my art up on like Twitter or have my own basically have my own thing advertising my own art. I've been wanting to get into business selling my art. I've actually talked with some people asking them if I could make art for them, like if they ever decide to sell merchandise. I don't expect it to go anywhere, but I don't have anything online that promotes my own art because I don't want AI to steal it. And after seeing this whole marathon business go down with Bungie, I don't want scummy publishers to come along and steal my stuff as well, because I know very damn well I've had people come up to me and say, hey man, your stuff looks really good. Why don't you try like selling your work? Why don't you try like getting into the business of making art professionally? Like, why don't you have a web page like showing your stuff? And it's like, well, it's because of all this stuff going on with AI and art thieves, and now game developers / publisher thieves that are stealing other people's work, claiming it as their own. And like, it's a hell of a world that we live in, you know, where like artists can't make money. Instead, they're inventing new words off the top of their heads. Yeah, it's just a weird scenario. Well, not a weird scenario. It's an infuriating scenario that's going on as my phone rings. And I don't know if any of you heard that in the background, but I'm just going to leave it at everything I just said. Sorry if this sounded like, you know, a lot of disjointed points. This is an unscripted video, but I just wanted to get all my thoughts out and rage and everything about the stuff going on. I hope you enjoyed this video, however the hell it turns out. And like, remember, you know, one mistaken case of art plagiarism is bad, but it can be forgiven, especially if the creators don't do it again. Multiple cases? That is completely unforgivable. Until next time, I hope to see you all in the next video. And if you made it this far, thank you. That makes you my shining star.